to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I'm joined by husband and wife duo Steve and Alyssa Terpstra, who you probably know as Coco and Jack. We all know that building our business from the ground up takes time and work. Now, combine that with having 4 young children, and you've got a whole nother set of challenges on your hands. And that's what Alyssa faced when she started her design firm 10 years ago. But then, 4 years ago, Steve joined her team to manage the business side of things so she could focus on what she does best, creating beautiful designs. Over these last 4 years, Alyssa and Steve have smoothed out their process to keep the engine running smoothly at home and at their firm. Today, they're going to give us an inside look at their process, how they approach their new clients, how to balance work and the kids, and how they have grown their business. Before we dive into this, let's take a minute to thank our show sponsor, Revelwoods. At Revelwoods, no detail gets overlooked. In fact, it's the details that create the precise process for specifying, pricing, ordering, and installing the best quality hardwoods for all of your projects. Revelwoods works to make sure that you have accurate, detailed information to share with your clients. They even offer sampling to make your job easier. Get started with their trade program today at revelwoods.com. REVEL woods.com. Okay, let's find out what Steve and Alyssa have to say about growing their business together and finding balance while maintaining their reputation as a luxury design firm. Hi, Steve. Hi, Alyssa. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, Luann.
Hi.
So, Steve and Alyssa, you are not Coco and Jack, but you are Coco and Jack, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So, I said when we started chatting off air, I said, I looked all over to find out where Coco and Jack came from. I didn't share with you that I had the suspicion it was children or pets. But I didn't think it was children because I saw that you had 4 kids and it's only 2 names. But
right.
Coco and Jack are the first names of your 2 first children, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And then I worried about your 3rd and 4th children. And then you said, no, Luann, we have an online shop now that we named after Annie and Flora. So.
Yes, yeah, they're taken care of as well.
That's it. That's awesome. Very good. I might just give you a little hint. I think you should put a little story about that in your About page. I think it would be fun to have that there.
I think it's a good idea because we get a lot of people asking, or they call us Coco and Jack. So I think that's probably a good idea.
Right? Exactly. But it's that sort of story that gives color to your firm and makes, certainly once you go to your Instagram, you see that it's a family and that you are involved and the kids are part of, the whole thing in their way. They're part of it and stuff. But when you're at the website, you don't necessarily know that. And I think it's just my 2 cents. I thought it would be fun to have seen or heard that story there,
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. And that was when we picked the name, we wanted to have that kind of like from our family, right? Like showing who we are. So I think to include that would be a good idea.
Yeah. So, all righty. So, Alyssa, you've had your firm for 10 years and Steve joined it 4 years ago. Do you want to maybe first tell us a little bit about that move to have Steve join the firm? I don't know if it was your thought where you're coming home saying, "Hey, buddy, I need a little help,"
Right.
or if it was Steve saying, "Alyssa, you've got a tiger on your hands. We can blow this up." Like, which was it?
It's funny. I've actually talked about this many times. We we both owned companies at the time. I actually owned just a welding shop, something that my background is from. And I started managing Alyssa's design company while managing my welding company. And we had to make a decision. We said, either you have to shut your company down or I have to shut my company down. And um, I often say this, but Alyssa was a lot better at design than I was at welding. So we decided to go into design together instead of the welding business.
Well, and I don't know. I can't picture you with that big hat, Alyssa, and the big
Right.
gloves and all that thing, Like, I don't
Exactly.
know. Somehow the Instagram, I'm not seeing it nearly as pretty.
Exactly. It would have been harder to make that look like.
Yeah, it's sort of like, Steve, come on. Were you really asking that question? Which one was going to close, right?
Yeah, it was never a question for me, I guess. But no, it was definitely nice when he was able to come on because I had a lot of clients who wanted me to take on more of the project management,
Mm.
which I didn't feel comfortable with doing. So having Steve come on to help me with that was definitely yeah, it was really helpful in growing the business.
Mm. And I'm hearing it in there. It's not just having a person who's capable and qualified to come in and do the project management, but the trust and confidence that it's your husband, that he's as invested and has your back, and is the best interest of the company, you and the clients in mind, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Just knowing that it would be someone that could, yeah, I could trust. And especially with our growing family, having that flexibility as well it just works so well.
Mm, that's so true. That element of it. You have four children, they're still young. And, I noticed myself, my husband and I have always been in business together as well. And even if it's like the third time in a week that you're the one who's supposed to pick up the kids, and, if you can't do it once in a while, it's fine. But if it's the third time in a week, if you're not in the same business together, the other person can sometimes feel like, what the heck? Manage
Right.
your time,
Right.
right? But if you're in it together, you're like, no, 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 I know what's been going on in your day. It's good. I've got the kids, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It makes it so much easier.
Absolutely. So so Steve, you said that you were already partly or mostly managing her business while running your own. Do you mean you were managing her books? What did that mean? What were you doing when you were doing her business as a side hustle to your own?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a mess. It was at first it was just the books because well, I took a look at her books and they weren't super organized. And then it became, she had clients that wanted to purchase things. So then I started ordering products for her clients. Then I started um, helping her put estimates together, and then it started to grow more and more. And it was almost like it got to the point where she could just design, and then I was taking care of basically everything else in the company.
Wow. And at this moment in time, do you have other employees, or is it the two of you doing everything?
Right now, it's just us two.
Whoa. Oh, I didn't expect that. I
Nope.
thought wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So, yes, of course she needed help then, right?
Exactly.
She was doing the work of four people.
Yes.
Okay. And then trying to be creative, trying to be a mama, and trying to be a wife. Like, that's insanity.
Right. It was getting crazy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now when you come in, so I would say even when you come in as that where it was your part-time side hustle running her business, that coming in to take care of the books and coming in to manage the ordering and all of that, were there times, was it the type of thing, Steve, where you came in and you're like, you don't have a process for this, so I'm going to put it in place? Or was it you were going to start to do it and maybe Alyssa is saying, that's not how I do it? And you're like, okay, but this is how we're going to do it? Or no, I hear you, will do it your way. What happened with the process part of it?
Yeah, actually, Alyssa had a big long process that she loved. She loved the process that she had picked, but for her to um, make the process happen was nearly impossible for her to do. So
Mm,
I picked it up right from the process that she liked. She had found, or she did a course actually, how to run a design company.
mm,
And so she had everything printed out and all her processes, actually more processes than I had in my company. So it was actually really nice to just grab this way of doing things and then put it in place.
Okay, so it sounds like, Alyssa, that you knew enough to go find a process. You knew enough to work through it, but it just became, bigger than you were able to manage it. And so, Steve, you were able to step in and start it, maybe wrangle it back to getting it in tight, right?
Exactly. And after he came on too, we actually did fine tune it a little bit, change some things to work even better. But I did have something like a pretty extensive one in place.
Okay. And when we are using the word extensive and a long process, are you meaning that to describe detail within the process? So, like step one and step two and step three and step four isn't just step one, two, and three, four. It's one has 10 things below it. Is that what you mean by extensive, that it was very built out within each step?
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of what we're talking about. Each step has a lot of different steps in it.
Right, because that's what we know is the case with running any business, that you have the step, which is maybe something as simple as collect the balance due. But how do you collect the balance due? Every firm has their procedures. Some bill it before installation, some, whatever it is. But the point is, collect the remaining invoice is not enough in order for anybody to execute that step the way you want it done if you don't tell them how to do it, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, good. So now, Steve, you're full-time in the business. Alyssa, you've got him there. And what happens now? Let's take it to the flow of onboarding a client. It sounds like to me, you mentioned, Steve, that you were doing a lot of the communication between the clients and the firm, even when you were doing your own company as well. So how does that look now? If I find you guys and I see your Instagram and I go to your website and I fill out an inquiry form, what happens?
Yeah, so we both see the email, but I will take it from there. I'll answer, sort of asking with a little bit more detail what they're looking for. So I take the first step in communicating, asking sort of what they're looking for, like I said, and then I set up a meeting with these people in person. And depending on the project, if it's more built toward the construction side of things, then I might go and meet this person by myself. But if we can tell from the email that they really want to see design, especially, then we'll set up the meeting with both Alyssa and myself.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you guys charge for that first initial consultation meeting, or that's a meet and greet and you don't want to charge for that?
No, that's just a meet and greet. We don't charge for that initial meeting.
Okay, so you have a somewhat of a phone call with them. You kind of vet them a tiny bit. You have autonomy in the firm. You don't have to say to Alyssa, "Here's what these people are about. Here's what the project is about. Do you think we should take it or not take it?" Not her permission, but I mean, do you collaborate on that, or you guys are like, "Look, if Steve says we're going to the consult, we're going to the consult."
I'd like to say that. I'd like to say that's the truth, but I think there's definitely, whether it just be over dinner, to be honest with you, if sitting and we're just chatting about a new project that's coming up, I'll pass it by her and see what she thinks about it. But for the most part, I'll just set up a meeting if I think it's worth it, or I might ask her, "Do you want to come with on this one?" If I'm thinking toward the construction side. But yeah, for the most part, I have full reins there.
What is the next step? So you go on the consult. Say, Steve, you go on it by yourself. Is the next step to prepare some sort of proposal of the scope of work? What is the actual next step?
Yeah, so after that, we would kind of go through the project together and put together a proposal that we would send over to the client. And if they are good with everything, we would set up a time to do a site measure. And that's also a time where we'll meet with them again and kind of go through their wish list again and, ask them any additional questions. And if I haven't met them, that's a time where I can kind of connect with them and get to know what they're looking for in the space.
Okay. So I'm curious if you ever get pushback, you guys, when Steve shows up by himself and they're like, "Where's Coco?" Like, you know what I'm
Um,
saying?
up to this point, maybe once or twice, they've asked for a lot of design advice when I get there, but um, never pushback in the sense that it's like I don't want to go with you guys because Alyssa wasn't here. It's almost like excitement for when we can meet Alyssa because I
Oh,
sort
little
of
takeaway.
I
You're creating the suspense for
yeah,
when they meet
I
her.
talk her up quite a bit when I'm there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so it works for you. I'm not challenging any of it. I'm actually just trying to understand the process. So that's cool. All right. So, and Alyssa, do you ever feel that you're at a disadvantage in trying to work on that design proposal with Steve when you haven't been in the space, or he's taking pictures, he's communicating, and you guys are a well-oiled machine?
It's maybe a little bit harder for me to price it, but Steve does most of the pricing anyway, so he'll have photos of the space and I can give my input. So it's that initial meeting's more to put together that cost for the client. So that's more Steve's area anyway. So I find it does work well um, to do that. Like I don't feel like they're at a disadvantage at all.
Okay, good. And actually, I meant you at a disadvantage. Do you feel like a little like I'm not sure of this project? I can't wrap my brain around it. I haven't seen it, but that's not
No, not
where
for
you're at.
not so. You know what? Maybe a little bit, but then when we do the site measure, I go there and I walk through the space and I talk to the client then. So when I actually start the design, I'm not at all.
You're,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, so Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about how you approach pricing projects? I know this is a hot topic with designers, flat fee, hourly, design fee, execution fees. How do you guys price your projects?
Yeah, so I guess it'd be first of all, we split it up into three different phases, which helps with pricing. So I first talk to the client and see where they're sort of leaning toward in regards to our phasing. The first two are very standard design, but then the third one is that sort of install. So sometimes that's not taken into consideration. And then I look at the size of the project. And then, oh yeah, it's difficult to break it down, but for our phase one, we'll go over how long a site measure is going to take, how long that first meeting is going to take, and then, um, I'll sometimes chat to Alyssa and see how long it might take to put a floor plan together, based on how much they want to change in the space. Um, and then for that second phase, we talk about how much demolition they'll need in the house, for instance, or how much furniture they actually want to purchase through us or want us to source for them. So different jobs, I just want to get as much information from the client for the pricing as I can, so that when I go to seeing how many hours it'll take for sourcing, I can enter that into our calculations and sort of come out with projected numbers and a price that we agree with, Alyssa and I.
Okay, so what we're saying is that when you're coming up with what you will present as the fee for phase one, you're taking into account, if the site measure is going to take 1 hour or 8 hours because how large the project is. You're talking about what you expect the meeting lengths to be like with those conversations with the client, and this is all just when you talked about the meeting length. This is the meetings that just get you to the contract. We're not talking about meetings through any phase past getting to contract, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the meeting. So for instance, if it's a simple kitchen, kitchens are never that simple, but if it's a kitchen, it's the meeting's going to be a lot shorter than if we have to do two stories,
Right.
for instance, or the distance of where if somebody's in Toronto. I mean, we're located in Hamilton, which is with traffic about an hour and a half away. So stuff like that even fits into our pricing. Little things like that add up and subtract, but yeah, the
Right.
meetings are a little bit tough to gauge, but with experience, more and more, we're starting to learn um, what kind of projects are going to lead to what kind of lengths of meetings.
Okay. And then the other component in there was an estimate from Alyssa on how long she thinks it'll take her to do floor plans for whatever the project is.
Right. And the working drawings and the sourcing, like I kind of will give those numbers.
Okay. And then this all together, mixed in with a little bit of experience and a little bit of intuition becomes the quote for the design fee.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then you estimate the middle section of the project, the demolition, the actual construction, overseeing all the trades, hiring the trades, and actually making the project a thing from paper to real.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little bit more in depth, and that's where we put together what I call a budget. We never, so the design is an estimate where if we sign the contract, we're good to go on that design, and that design price doesn't change. But when it comes to the construction side, at the beginning, before any design's put down, I put together a budget where I'll show them what, based on how we think we'll design it, will cost for them to do it. And then throughout the design, if they like that budget number throughout the design, we'll actually design with that budget number in mind.
So when you do that, what do you do in the conversation with the client, whether it's from the beginning, from the initial call to the initial consult to those design planning meetings? What language do you use? What questions do you use? How do you ascertain what level budget you will design for? Because we all know if you say to a client, what's your budget? They're like, I don't know.
Right.
But if you say, do you typically spend $5,000 or $500 on a refrigerator? They have an answer, right? So how do you do that, the two of you? So because it sounds like to me that you're garnering the information, whether indirectly or directly, but probably mostly indirectly, and then you're coming back and presenting the budget. And if you design always the way you want and you leave that element out of all of that inquiry, you could consistently present $200,000 kitchens and people consistently think it's $50,000, and that's a waste of everybody's time. So how do you do that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think that process, like trying to figure out where our budget numbers are going to be, comes from just talking with the potential client about their, not directly but indirectly, their lifestyle, the way that they're living now, sort of the home they have now, sort of sometimes what area they're living in. It's tricky to say exactly how I base it, but it definitely, I agree with you, it definitely changes on every project we quote and put together budgets. I tried to get budget numbers out of them where they want to be, but typically that doesn't come until I've presented a budget. So yeah, I think it's indirectly from just a conversation with them about who they are, where they've been, and sort of how they want their home to be to them. Like, is it a forever home? Is it something that you think you're going to move out in a little while? That kind of stuff is how I gauge it.
Okay. And do you do qualifying questions like that when you are trying to, okay, so how about this? How often do you nail it within a range that it might be high, but it's not high that they're going to, pick up and walk out the door? So do you mostly nail it, Steve, or do you, hey, you know what, there's a lot of give and take, and 3 out of 5 times I present a budget for a kitchen at 150, and 2 of the times it's completely, they're shocked and they thought it was going to be 70?
I think my rate of nailing it, I don't. I think there's always a little bit of discrepancy, but we're I would say about 75% of the time we're very close to where they want. I think often we come a little bit higher than what they want. I think that's because I'm trying to push them. If somebody doesn't tell me a budget, their budget usually is lower than realistically what they're looking for. So I think for the most part we hit their budget right on. And then sometimes somebody's like, yeah, we're gonna have to pass on this project. And
Mm.
yeah, so it's those, there's that element of sometimes when they want a budget, you're not getting it exactly. But we sometimes come back with a conversation and saying, we can change that budget and we can talk about how to do it differently. But yeah, I would say about 75% of the time they're very
Okay.
happy with the budget.
So are you okay, so this is people that you deem are viable, that you've had the conversation, you've had the consult, and you are both saying, yeah, good project, let's quote it. And I get that, 2, 3 times out of 10, there's a discussion. Maybe you're a little high, but it's not so high that they can't figure it out, or it's a little high and you're going to take out something and it's going to make it work. How often, or because of your Instagram and because of what you've got going on, your reputation that you're building, do you have the people that come that have no business? Like you're having a conversation with them and you're just talking to, like for me, I'll relate it to you in my business in window treatments, right? So if you come to Window Works, you make a phone call, you start asking me questions about custom window treatments. And at some point you say to me, yes, I was at Blinds to Go yesterday, or I was at Home Depot yesterday and I was getting quotes. So I thought I would call you guys today. I'm like, no, we're not doing this. Like, stop. Right.
Right.
Now, that's inside voice. Outside voice, I say it's so much nicer, but I'm not going to that house. You know what I'm saying? Not unless the other end of the conversation is, and that stuff is garbage and I've got to have the best there is. I want you. Right. So how is your marketing self-weeding out the clients now that literally should not be calling you? Or do you still deal with that? Because there is that change that as you grow and you scale your business, when the marketing finally attracts, 75% of your ideal client, right?
Yeah, I would say our Instagram has definitely weeded out that. We very rarely even get a inquiry where somebody's not looking for you know something with a budget very close to where we could be with them. We don't often get somebody who doesn't understand that design costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely helped. We still, yeah, sometimes get those projects where we meet and we're expecting big things, and then they're surprised that there's even a cost to design. So it depends on where somebody comes through as well. Like you mentioned Instagram. If somebody comes through Instagram, I mean, it's amazing to be talking to them about a project because they love our design, they love everything that we do. But then if somebody comes through a Google and they just saw a design build company in the local area, that's a whole different story. So yeah, I think Instagram and the way that we're seen most has definitely weeded out that.
Mm. And Lisa, can you recall back when you were building your firm where you would have those kinds of conversations on the regular where, you were starting to move your firm more towards doing full service luxury and you're still getting the calls for people saying, can you come and pick paint colors for my bedroom?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely it was a long time to get to this point. There, like I was doing little, basements for a long time. And just yeah, the consultations. I still offer those to some of my past clients who still want
Mm-hmm.
them, but typically I don't do consultations anymore. But it was like that for quite a few years at the
Yeah,
beginning.
it's a tough thing, right? I mean, I know I talk to the designers that making that transition from all of the projects when we're in that phase of we got to take all the business we can because we've got to get this company up and rolling, and then making that transition to weeding those out. And I guess the two of you are going to continue to make that transition in a bigger way, right? Where
Right.
you're now still taking one room, big, one room renovations, but I don't know if we said it on air or off. I can't remember at this point, but you were telling me that that's the next phase that you want to go is that full project only, right?
Right, where we would do projects where we do the design and build together. Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. And it's a dance, isn't it? When you go from one phase to another and to feel it out, do you find that is there any combination of intuition and metrics that you guys are using? Steve, do you look at the pipeline? Do you look at the finances and you just say, no, I'm sorry, sweetie, you got to do another one bedroom? Like that's how it is. Put your big girl panties on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's difficult. It's hard to transition from that because you also don't want to let people down either, right? When you have somebody um, who just loves your style, loves your aesthetic, but can only do a couple rooms in their house, you kind of you get that feeling that you don't want to let them down either. So it's a tricky situation to be in, but definitely we are going to at one point need to make that transition.
Yes, yes. I have learned that one of the tactics is that you find someone in your area that is also talented but just the step or two behind you that you can refer that work to. You know what I'm saying? It's I've recently had a conversation with someone who said to me that they get a lot of referrals from Shay and Sid McGee.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
From people that, are reaching out to Studio McGee, and it's not their ideal client, but this other firm is super talented, everything, all the things, and they feel confident in giving that referral over, and that firm is, on the upswing. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's a great way to do it. And we have done that with some jobs in the past that that weren't a good fit for us. So that does work well.
Yeah. And it works for all of us. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
if it's just that we're bigger or we're smaller. If it's just not a fit for any criteria, it's nice to not just say no, because as you said, you feel bad. You appreciate that they value you enough to call you, and you just don't want to be like, see you bye. You want to give them a place to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about the flow of the work week. I mean, it's just the two of you. You do have 4 children, and you do have the projects. I mean, does it work because it's super structured? And I remember when I talked with Shay and Sid, and they had this very Shay gets up and she does the morning routine with the kids, and she gets to, la la la, and Sid, actually, was it the other way around? No, he gets up, I think, and does the morning, and she comes back and does the afternoon with the kids, right? And so, but the idea is that they have it figured out. So are you like that too? In other words, with having the 4 children and the business and all of the responsibility, is it that the only way it works is it's very defined, or are you like, look, Lou, we're just getting it done. Like whoever does breakfast. We're glad they all have baths at night. Like, how are you?
There's probably a bit of both. I think the biggest thing for us at the beginning, we had it very structured where we would have, the morning and the afternoon, but just the way our schedules work, sometimes it doesn't work for us to do it quite like that, because sometimes Steve will be at a construction site all day, and then, that whole day's gone for me. So what we do is we'll kind of just look at our calendar for the week, and we'll kind of say, okay, you can have this day or this morning, and we'll break it up like that week by week. So and if I'm scheduling in a meeting, I'll look at the calendar, see if anything's scheduled, and we kind of just work together week by week to make it work for both of us. We found that worked better than having it super structured.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you're allowing for flexibility, but you're always going to the calendar first. You're scheduling within the parameters. Okay. And then how about the process of running the actual business? So, weekly meetings regarding client statuses and project statuses and bookkeeping and finances and, all of that. Do you have that structure between the two of you, or is for the most part Steve handling all of that, and therefore he doesn't need to meet with you to do those things?
Yeah. So, actually I guess it's been almost a year now, but we started a Monday morning routine. We call it Monday morning meetings every single Monday morning. I take about an hour and a half to put together a long agenda with all of our projects, all of our upcoming things, all the things I'm speaking to clients about. And then we sit down for about 2 hours and we go over everything. And it's a great time for both of us to relate to each other, what we're kind of where we are in each project. And that's how we keep on top of everything, because it's so interesting. We're together all the time, yet still we don't know where we are until we get to that Monday morning meeting, and then we're back on track again.
Smart, right? It feels like it gives you at least the place to catch some things that might be going through the cracks, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. We have our Monday mornings meetings also. And, I love the productivity that comes from it. I love feeling like, hey, that's so great. We caught that and we took care of it. And I don't love it as much, but I'm grateful for it when I'm like, whoa, we talked about that last Monday. Nobody did it.
Right. Exactly. I
It's
know.
like, wow. But if you weren't having the Monday morning meeting, it would have been gone.
Exactly. I know.
So, I mean, it's life, right? It's business. It's crazy.
It is.
It's
Cool.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. It's setting up the places to catch the things, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you kind of just make sure that nothing, falls between the cracks and gets missed.
Mm. And then how do you need to, Alyssa, plan for creative time? In other words, many of us as creatives have times of the day where it's more productive. So if I have to write anything that anybody expects to be, halfway well done and coherent, I got to do it in the morning before 10 o'clock.
Right.
And I got to do it before I do anything else. Even at 8 o'clock, if I've done something else from 6 to 8, no, I can't. I can do it and I can make myself do it, but I know it's always better if I come to it with a clean head. How about you? Where is your creative process in all of the responsibilities that you have? How do you make time for that?
I think like my most creative time is like evenings, like late, like like if I
Mm.
stay up late, that's the time where I can like get a lot done and just work the best and come up with the most ideas. I don't always obviously work late, but that would be the time um that I am the
Mm.
most creative, I think.
So then, if you are staring down the barrel of several projects that need creative work done on it, will the two of you, look at each other and say, okay, I'm going to need Wednesday and Thursday? You're doing bath and bed and book and all of that. Or do you just do it at 8, 9, 10 o'clock after all responsibility is done?
After everything's done, yeah,
Mm.
we'll have the kids in bed and then I'll kind of work on stuff at that time.
Mm. I give you a lot of credit, and I have heard that from other designers that time of night they will go back and do their work and stuff. And but I could not do the creative work. I can do that busy work. I can do work. I can do anything other than creative at that time of night.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alyssa's been doing that since her college days when she was in school for design. She'd be up till 3 in the morning working on design, and that's just
Oh.
she wakes up late in the morning, not with kids anymore, but she would wake up really late in the morning and work till all hours of the night. She's always done it that way.
Night owl. You're a
Yes,
night owl.
yes.
Yes. Okay. All righty. And so tell us a little bit about like, so Steve, you're doing all the bookkeeping and the record keeping and the operation side of that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then what about, do you have things, I mean, with only two of you, do you have certain things automated and systemized? Like when, every week, do you do weekly updates to all of your clients? Do you just do monthly updates on statuses? How do you, because I know that you mentioned to me in your document that you sent for the pre-show conversation, pre-show prep, that communication is a hallmark of your business, that you just really value it so much. So, with just two of you and site visits and designing time, how do you put that into a process so that it doesn't fall through the cracks?
Um, Maybe it could use a bit better of a process, but I think just every week with the Monday morning meeting, I'll look over every project and look over my emails, and if we haven't talked in a while, I'll just honestly, it's a bit of a feeling of just needing to update the client on, we're working on your sourcing, we're getting to this stage. But then when it comes to ordering furniture for people, I'll update them almost weekly with lead time charts to show where their products are. So in different ways, wherever we are in the phases, wherever we are in the construction, I'll continue to update them. I try on a weekly basis, but I don't like to go 2 weeks without being in contact with a client, even if it's really in the design phase where where Alyssa's been working on it for 3 weeks, and there's another 4 weeks until we get to that presentation date. I'll make sure that we're in contact and we're making sure they know where we are with it.
One other thing that I want to ask you about before I let you guys go is you mentioned to me that you really resonated with the show that we had with Daryl Long from Wilson Associates. It was episode number 587. And Daryl's podcast episode was called The Best Design Comes From Within, Not From Pinterest. So who wants to share a little bit about their feelings on that?
I'll go. It's funny because Steve actually showed me the episode, and I think it was the week before, he showed it to me that I was kind of, saying that I had the same thoughts on design lately, and just how much is out there on Pinterest, how much is on Instagram, and you can scroll through new stuff daily. And I feel like a lot of it's it starts to look very similar, and there's, I don't know if intentionally, but, there's almost like copying being done where rooms look so similar. And I think there's just like a lack of looking elsewhere for inspiration because it's so easy to look on Instagram and Pinterest. So I think that's something I came to the realization just a few weeks ago before we listened to that. And I thought I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to look for inspiration differently, but I've bought some books and just trying to be more authentic with how you look for inspiration and not just go for what's easy on Instagram and Pinterest.
It's so you're figuring that out for yourself now. You're having the aha moment that maybe, am I right, that maybe you've been doing that yourself? Is that what you're saying? And you're just saying to yourself, wait, what am I doing here?
Right.
I have to go back to creating?
Yeah, because when I think back to when I first started my business, and Pinterest was a lot smaller, Instagram was a lot smaller, like there wasn't as much out there, and you were kind of forced to look in more creative ways for inspiration. And now it's just so easy to find all these beautiful ideas, and there's like endless amounts of it. So you can just go, and it's a lot more, I feel like it enables copying a lot more than going out and being authentic with design.
And you were drawn to interior design from what? Were you one of those little girls that moved the furniture in your room around every single week?
Right. I don't think I'd be allowed to move my furniture, but I loved design shows from when I was very young. So that was always something I loved. So yes, I was one of those little girls that loved design.
And when you were having this aha moment, Alyssa, recently, could you really, truly, authentically say to yourself, I used to work harder at this. I used to dig deeper inside? Or was it a complete aha that, that's an idea and I need to, address that within my own design? Which way was it?
It was definitely, I used to look more, I used to think differently about design. It wasn't just like, I like that space and kind of looking at the different elements and liking it. It was more, I feel like I was more creative and more authentic in what I designed.
How interesting for you to start to have that thought process, and then to hear Daryl probably was like a huge confirmation, right?
Exactly. I know, because when I heard it from him, and then I was like, you know what, I think it's a bigger problem for more people than just me.
Yes, right. And it's so funny because I got a lot of feedback on that episode, and basically I would tell you, it's funny because I'm not one to say the younger generation this, the older generation that, because I know that every generation says that about the other generation.
Right.
And so, but interestingly, it was the mostly designers, I would say 45 and up, that commented like, heck yes, and high five, and I agree, or sent emails really describing how passionate they agreed with his position on it. Now I'm connecting the dots. It's like, this is a generation of designers that didn't grow up and build their business on the easy access to images. Even you, as young as you are, and only 10 years ago, the access was so much different.
Right.
So it's interesting because I guess necessity is also the mother mother of invention there. If, you built your firm 20, 25, 30 years ago and you really couldn't just Google anything, you did have to consistently push yourself probably more, right? It's a different kind a bit of training, of a thought process training.
It is, but I like it because it makes for more original design and yeah, just more authentic, something that's gonna look different and not. I feel like there's the design keeps going like and everything kind of follows. Like it's so similar when you look across the different platforms. Like it's just there's less differences. There's more similarities between the designs. So I think if you're looking in different areas and not Pinterest, not Instagram for your inspiration, I still go there for some ideas, but I try to really limit going to those places.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So good. So good. Now, tell me a little bit before you guys go too about Annie and Flora, the online shop. What are you doing with that? That's for consumers, correct?
Right. So we started Annie and Flora at the beginning of earlier this year. And it's just a place where we've put together a collection of pieces that we love for the home, and we wanted to make it available for consumers as well. And it's kind of a fun spot for us to share our look and feel that we really love for the home and kind of make it an easy point for people to go and buy pieces for themselves.
And I know that when I spoke with Bria Hamill, she is a designer in Minnesota, big firm, smart lady. But I remember her telling me that part of the idea of it was not to just share their brand and, attract more people to their brand, but that the luxury full service clients, they get the Bria Hamill design firm. They get to work with it. But there's many, 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 many clients and potential consumers across that will never be able to because of time, distance, space, money.
Right.
And that the online company isn't the exact product, but it's reminiscent. So if you are not a person who will ever have the luxury of being able to hire Bria Hamill and you admire a chandelier in one of her spaces, well, the version that you can afford is part of that line, and it gives that feeling of having that look without using the firm. Is that also where you guys are at, or where's your price point, and what target client are you going toward?
It's the price point. It's definitely, I would say, kind of middle of the road. Like it's not, I wouldn't say the prices are crazy, but they're definitely on the higher end. But I think it does allow homeowners to get the look that we offer in their home, and it kind of gives them a place to go to and without kind of searching so much to get the look that we have. So it just makes it easier for them to go get those pieces at not a crazy high price point. So it would be more affordable.
Right. And this is a whole nother business. I mean, honestly, right? I mean, has this been, and is this falling under your purview as well, Steve? Is setting up this online shop and doing all the technology in the back end and creating the card and sourcing? Well, I guess sourcing is probably Alyssa's job, but yeah.
Yeah. So Alyssa takes care of all the sourcing, and that's where everything gets picked from. But yeah, I run the shop right now. And slowly but surely learning the back end more and more and more. My background is definitely not in websites and
e-commerce.
So even retail itself, I'm looking for a lot of different information on what is important with retail and stuff. So it's been really fun and really interesting and exciting. It's really fun to work on.
And what's the distribution like? Are all the products at your location? Somebody orders it, you box it, and you send it, or are you taking an order and it's generating and leaving from another place?
Yeah, for the most part, we're doing wholesaling. So a lot of our manufacturers, and I guess they wouldn't even be called manufacturers, but wholesalers are down in the States. So if anything's coming to Canada, it'll come to us first, and we'll inspect it. But if anything's being shipped throughout the States, it doesn't come to us just because of brokerage. But we are working toward more custom products and items that we're actually going to be manufacturing through local companies here in the Hamilton and Toronto area. So that'll be more exciting to stock items. We love the idea of stocking all these items, but we're just not at the point where we can just set up
Yeah.
yeah, big showroom yet. We can't wait for it, and we've actually had tons of inquiries about whether we have a showroom. So
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. That's like a whole nother animal. I mean,
It
open up
is.
a bakery too next week. Why don't you? I
Sounds
mean,
good.
what the heck? That's amazing. All right. So I want to ask you guys one final question. If I asked you, Alyssa, or you, Steve, to tell me the thing that you really just step back each week or month and say, wow, she really does that so good, or he really does that so good. I'm so glad that we're doing this together.
If every week, I think it would be the communication and management that um, I really appreciate from Steve, because that's something that it's not my strong point. So when I see him doing it and doing it well, that's something that I'm really thankful to have in our business.
That's awesome.
yeah, I would say I'm not an incredible salesperson, so the amount of times that I'm just astounded at how her design it's just so good that it basically sells itself. I go to meet with a client, and we're both just talking about how great Alyssa's design is, and I'm quite astounded by how that really um, makes the job of selling a project that much easier. But also her ability to balance between being a mother and a business owner and a wife all at the same time is pretty remarkable.
Aw, that's so awesome. I love that. I love both what you both said. I think it's great. And I love that you both do recognize what the other one brings to the business because, it's important. We get tied up and wrapped up in what we each do. And as long as we're constantly like, yeah, but I couldn't do that without him or her, then it keeps us our feet on the ground,
Right.
right?
It's so true.
Absolutely. Well, you guys are something else. I'm so grateful that you came on the show and shared your experience and your journey with us. I'm sure that you're going to be a great inspiration to other designer couples out there that are trying to grow and build their own design firm. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Now, you know that I infinitely love peeling back the curtain on every firm and seeing what's a little different and what's unique for each person and their firm and their success. But I have to say, I was a tiny bit blown away to find out that Coco and Jack is a two-person team, okay? To understand and to think that Steve and Alyssa are handling everything on their own. I was not expecting this. But in a way, it seems like it might be, for the time being, their secret weapon. I know, and I'm sure they know, and you know, that they will hit a point somewhere down the line where it doesn't work, right? That they need more team members. But for now, the communication and trust that they have with each other and that they in turn carry to their clients, this is the secret sauce that is helping them to grow and scale. It was very obvious the way they each complemented each other. And they're bringing that to the client communications. And that is really what's creating that business and referrals, right? Now, it's clear that they found a system that works for them, with Steve handling the majority of the intake and Alyssa staying in her creative lane, her zone of genius, and the four small children at home. They understand that the business is all about flexibility and balance. Alyssa shared some insight that they had tried to become really structured and routine with who manages mornings and night times and who's going on consults and who's at home, but it didn't work for them. For them, their family, flexibility and a well-organized calendar are the answers to balancing everything and helping to make sure that they stay on track. And part of that well-organized calendar is their Monday morning meetings where they come together and discuss every project that they're working on, every meeting coming up, and they plan out the scope of what the rest of the week is going to look like. We've heard from other designers who also lean on Monday morning meetings. It's something we do at WindowWorks as well. And I'll give a huge shout out to Chad James way back in 2017 when I first heard it and I brought it right back to WindowWorks, okay? It cannot be overstated how important having these consistent check-ins is. You have to carve out that time to come together and discuss what's coming up, even if you're only working with your spouse. Steve said that it's funny because even though they are together all the time, they don't always know what's going on the other side of things until they come together and talk about it. This really helps them keep things from falling through the cracks. It gives each a chance to check in on the various sides of the business, and it sets a strong foundation for the week. It doesn't have to be Monday mornings if that doesn't work for you, but there is something to be said for scheduling the time of the week that gets it set out on the right foot. All right. Now, speaking of decisions you can make to set your business up on the right foot, let's take a minute to talk about our show sponsor, Kravit. Have you visited Kravit.com yet? You can easily shop Kravit, Lee Joffa, and Brunswick and Fee all in one place. Introducing new and easy-to-use search features so that you can get the latest products and collections right at your fingertips. Want more of the story behind the collection? Explore the new editorial blog, Inspired. For a behind-the-scenes look at everything Kravit has to offer, go to Kravit.com. And once you've set up your trade account, keep in mind that you can get 10% off any one Kravit fabric trim or wall covering order. Use the code AWBD10 and you'll get 10% off. Now, there's one other big takeaway from today's conversation that I want to highlight. But I first want to make sure that you know that Luann Live registration is open, okay? It's open, luannlive.com. We have days left for the early bird deadline, which ends December 31st. So if you're listening to this show in real time, you have about a week left, all right? Do not miss all of the goodness at Luann Live. All of the speakers, all of the panel discussions, all of the extra add-ons that we're giving you, okay? Head to luannlive.com and read all about it. All right, now, my last big takeaway. Steve and Alyssa resonated with my recent episode with Daryl Long. The best design comes from within, not from Pinterest. In that episode, Daryl and I talked about something that probably, maybe, I don't know, ruffled a few feathers. That the problem with Pinterest-based designs is that you really shouldn't be looking to Pinterest for your creativity, all right? He contends that we've lost creativity as an industry. That's too big of a word. That parts of the industry, certain sections, certain individuals in the industry, right? He's just imploring and saying, look around, not at other design, but look at the world at large for design inspiration. And it's a great episode. Head over to the show notes to take a look and see what episode it was. But I have to say, I actually got more high fives on the episode than people saying, what you talking about, Willis? Right? So it was thought-provoking is the point. So please head over to the show notes to see what episode. All right. Well, I have to say, it was a fun time talking with Steve and Alyssa. I'm really grateful for them to show up today and spend their time with us. I'm grateful that you came today and spent your time with me too. I really am looking forward to seeing you at Luann Live. I hope you heard my show earlier in the week where I described a lot of the details and the way the show is going to be so you can really envision it for yourself. In the meantime, if you're listening in real time, it is the holidays right here upon us. So no matter what your beliefs are, your traditions, all of it, I hope that you are going to find time to spend it with the people that you love. And I wish you a happy holiday season, and I certainly wish you a happy new year, right? We'll have a show between now and then, so I'll probably wish you happy new year again. But, we can't wish for happy 2021 early enough, can we? All right. Thank you tons for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.